Someone asked me the other day if spirit energy, someone who's passed over, could actually break people up. Because you know how spirit can get people to come together and help people find one another. Can they also splits people up? So I don't think there's any particular rules that happen. It's just every situation with spirit energy is different, and it depends on the personality that the person had while they were on Earth, as to the residual energy that's left with their spiritual energy. Now, as examples, where my mum, when she passed away, I normally can pick up somebody's loved one who's passed over quite soon after they've passed. I didn't get anything at all from my own mum for a whole year. And in that year, there was a lot happening around my dad. He was getting a lot of energy from my mum, but I wasn't picking up anything. Even when I tried to tune in with her, I couldn't get anything. That doesn't mean, that could have meant that I was going through my own grieving process and there was things I needed to go through before I could connect with her. We didn't have a close relationship, like on a really deep closeness, but I have that with my dad, but I never felt that from my mum. So there was a lot of healing that was going on with me, as well as the healing that she was going through in her own process of transitioning over to the other side. So that would explain why I couldn't get a connection with my mum for a year. In the meantime, my dad found it very, very difficult to be alone. He just could not cope being alone. So he formed a relationship with a family friend of theirs. So there was a couple that my parents were friends with, that couple for like over 50 years. And her husband had died. So she was a comfort to my dad and going through grief, because she had already been through grief. So they were spending a lot of time together. Now, my mum, when she was alive, was an extremely jealous person. She displayed a lot of intense, jealous energy. And so I know that which my dad actually went on to marry this other lady. While they were still just sort of going out with one another, this lady was in my mum's wheelchair. She had to have a knee operation, and she couldn't walk very far. So my dad said, well, I'll get, my mum's name was Marilyn. So he said, I'll get Marilyn's old wheelchair out and you can use that. Because they were going to a show that required, like a marketplace that required a lot of walking around to see everything, and she wasn't going to be able to walk with this sore knee, so she decided to sit in my mum's old wheelchair. And while my dad was pushing her, the wheelchair collapsed and she fell out. And on another occasion, she was sitting in the passenger seat of what was my mum and dad's car. She was sitting in the passenger seat, and the radio started playing this song, which was relevant to my dad. And then all of a sudden, the radio just lost all communication. They couldn't get any radio station at all, and it was just this really high static sound. And then the seat that she was sitting on just like fell down in the car. Like how you can adjust seats? It just sort of collapsed. So twice they were thinking this has to be Marilyn showing her disapproval that my dad has now started a relationship with a new woman. And there's a few other things that happened where, things went wrong, and they would say it was Marilyn showing her disapproval. Now, I'm in two minds with this, because I know that we don't have an ego when we pass over the other side. We have a much higher consciousness. So my mum's higher consciousness would actually be very, very happy for them that my dad was happy with somebody else. But then my mum's ego side, when she was in the physical body, she wouldn't be happy. No way would she be happy if my dad found love with somebody else. So it makes me start thinking, a lot of it has to do with actually the people that are here. So my dad and his partner now, his wife now, they have a belief and they have a certain connection to Marilyn. And so that they see her in a certain way. So they both see her as a jealous person. So I think it's got to do with their energy as well. So when they connect with my mum's energy, they're connecting with that part of her. They're connecting with that jealousy part of her. And that's what creates a scenario to happen that makes it look like her spirit is disrupting things. And so when you start thinking spirit are doing something good for you, or spirit are disrupting you, it also has a lot to do with your own higher self and the way you think about that person. Maybe it's like a blame, like things are going wrong in my life and I think it's their spirit energy that's ruining it. But are you also putting that energy into it by what you're thinking about them? It's got a lot to do. It's got a lot to do with the people that are living. It's not just a spirit energy. They're just energy, and energy can manipulate, but they are also working on a frequency. So if you're thinking about them in a certain way, and it depends on what way you're thinking. If you're thinking as a loved one, as someone that always helped you, they always helped you in life, they always give you great advice, and they always pointed you in the right direction. So if you were in a relationship with somebody in your physical self who wasn't the greatest for you, they weren't bringing out the best in you, and they were causing you a lot of toxic energy, or maybe they had secrets that you're just unaware of, and your loved ones in spirit are aware, very, very aware. So they can put a thought into your mind to make you start thinking this person's not right for you. So so when you do, you can split up, but it's a collaboration of your energy, the other person's energy, and a spiritual energy that's also helping you in a way, because sometimes we see a split up as devastating and it's a heartbreak. We don't see the benefit of it, which is maybe that person's been lying to us and we've been fooled. Maybe that person's not in our best interest. Maybe that person's not going to be the one that helps us to grow. We don't sort of see that. We just sit with the heartbreak and like what the ego feels at the time. So yeah, I believe they can play a part in collaborating with your energy and the other person's energy and what they're trying to give to you, because we don't always see that it's a benefit. We kind of think it's something bad that's happening. So yeah, that's the way I see it anyway. So share your thoughts.